It's been 392 days since I last wished somebody a happy birthday on social media. Something that always felt like a reminder blanketed in emojis that this relationship is really only through this dimension. That I like you, but if you want to connect on a deeper level, I might disintegrate like an old book no longer bound to its spine. Because why read the book if you've already been given all the spoilers? 386 days since I began relearning that hearts and thumbs meant body parts that work in sync to nurture my body and allow me to love deeper than the ocean. 380 days since a photo means something closer to a click of a button and a pop of light, leaving you slightly delirious while you wait for the flock of birds clouding your vision to pass. So by the time they dissipate, you are left with a tangible memory that is delicately reliant on your fingers for protection. 297 days since, instead of feeling a knot in my stomach that I will never be her with those looks in that life, I felt a sigh of relief that I will never be her with those looks in that life because she doesn't exist. And much like the photo in my hand, I consist of varying colors and textures that tell a story. My distortions illustrate the life I've lived, the choices I've made, and the two people who combined various parts of the world to create me. A little over a year ago, I was just like millions of others in their 20s, clung to social media. Not because I liked it, but because I couldn't remember what it was like not maintaining an online persona through an artificial connection and a feed connecting myself and those I know and even those I didn't know. For the last few years, I began observing my emotions and I noticed a huge link between social media and subtle misery. It all started for me with Facebook, and I'm the kind of person that loves to improve my life, so I immediately deleted Facebook, and that was the best decision ever. I felt so much better, and I essentially only had Instagram after that, and it took a couple of years for Instagram to become toxic to me as well. What started as a fun hobby to express myself creatively ended up morphing into something a little bit more destructive. I began taking my feed a lot more seriously, as well as my follower count, and for some reason I was desperate to reach 1,000 followers. I felt that if I had just gotten 1,000 followers, all of my hard work and effort would be worth it somehow. I don't think I ever reached that goal before realizing how ridiculous it all was in the first place. So although I was taking it so seriously, I still couldn't stand how superficial it all was, spending hours upon hours scrolling through a blur of hundreds of people's posts, all lacking the most important thing in existence, human connection. We spend about a third of our lives sleeping, another third working, so the remaining third becomes incredibly precious. And it always ate away at me to be spending so much of it doing unnecessary things like scrolling through people's feeds and curating your own. But I do understand how hard it can be. When I first decided to quit, I did not know it was going to be a trending topic. I hadn't known a single other person or content creator that had ever deleted their social media. I thought I was kind of digging myself into a hole, and I remember asking myself things like, how will people reach out to me? How can I just fall off the face of the earth? How will I ever keep up with the most recent art or news or events? Or even tattoo artists. I used to love following tattoo artists on Instagram. And I just decided, okay, I'm gonna do this. I made a story announcing my decision, and from there I allowed people to contact me, in which we exchanged numbers, and after that it was incredibly easy. It's remarkable how quickly we can adapt. I thought it was going to be so hard, but it turns out there was such an enjoyable way to do things before. Every single thing that I mentioned, every worry is so much better without social media. People will reach out to you and you can reach out to them. And in fact, I've talked to so many more people than I did when I had social media. I've had really deep, meaningful conversations with a lot of people, especially people I considered acquaintances, because I wasn't on social media. It feels so good to not have to rapidly consume as much data as humanly possible anymore. And I love living in the real world where things happen by chance, beautifully and unpredictably. You miss out on absolutely zero of the things you are unaware of. Having dependency on an inanimate object that leaves you constantly desiring more is a recipe for depression. You know the phrase, ignorance is bliss? It couldn't be truer here. You can't know what you're missing if you're not constantly exposed to it. Besides that, I've talked to plenty of acquaintances over the last year, either through phone, email, or even in person, and I've noticed our interactions are dramatically different without social media. It is so wonderful to connect with somebody and catch up with somebody and genuinely be interested in the conversation because you have no idea what they've been up to over the time you haven't been talking. Whereas when I had social media, I used to dread running into people like this because I felt so weird. Like, what do we talk about if we already know everything that is going on in each other's lives, even though we hadn't spoken in years? So that is probably my favorite aspect of it, is that I am genuinely so interested in reconnecting with people who I haven't talked to in years, and it takes away every awkward feeling I ever had prior to deleting social media. So what it feels like to delete social media is a lot like drastically changing your hairstyle. Imagine cutting your hair to your shoulders after having it long for years. At first, you're going to be so shocked. You're going to try to get used to the feeling of the weight lifted off your shoulders, and you're going to have to figure out how to style it and get used to looking at yourself in the mirror. But slowly but surely, it'll just become a part of you, and it won't be a new hairstyle anymore. But since it's been so much easier, I don't even think about it. Okay, so I've written down some things that I wanted to let you guys know. Let me reference them. So one is, once you get used to living without it, it's unfathomable going back. Once you know someone based on their real life persona, their laughter, their awkwardness, it's like you're in this together, navigating life how it should be navigated, whatever that means. I'm no more secluded than I was before. I think it's a lot more blaringly obvious how insignificant you are when you have social media, and it couldn't be more opposite when you're off of social media. Every connection you have feels meaningful. I'm just doing so much more. I'm actually going out and about a lot more, and I'm doing things that are a lot more meaningful. I'm trying to make new friendships in this new town that I live in, and I'm also trying to develop skills. I'm learning to play chess, and I've been playing tennis, and also learning Spanish, as some of you might know. And I'm also trying to work on a couple other projects for work, and life is going really well. I'm actually happier than I think I've ever been. And a lot of it is because of quitting social media. I feel like a lot of people are like this, but I'm the kind of person that will take the path of least resistance. So if I have the option between scrolling on social media or being productive, I would always choose scrolling on social media. So I've been so much more productive since eliminating it altogether. I think it's really important to keep in mind that how we perceive the world shapes who we are. And without social media, I perceive it in such a more beautiful way. And I think that's something you should keep in mind. So would I go back to the platforms that I've deleted? Absolutely not. I can't even imagine going back to them. But I have to admit, I am considering platforms I've never tried before, like TikTok. And this isn't at all in a typical way that you'd imagine. I'm different than probably most of you watching this because I am trying to be a content creator. I'm trying to make this my job. So I sort of have to have some social media in order for that to work. And what I've noticed from my experience on YouTube is it's really easy to just post things and not consume tons of media. To be honest, over the last several months, I've hardly watched YouTube as a form of entertainment. I mostly use it for a search engine. So I could see myself doing something similar with TikTok, where I just post my content, but don't actually consume the media on the platform. So that is something I'm considering, but I'm always going to be like this, where I never really go on social media, never really consume social media, but I might post on social media, if that makes sense. Anyway, that is pretty much all I have to say. If you haven't quit social media yet, I recommend it because you might not think it's negatively impacting you, and you won't see how your life changes until you try it. For instance, I didn't realize how deeply it actually did affect me and how many benefits I'd actually acquire until doing this. Anyway, that is all for my video, and if you are thinking about quitting social media, why not try it? Because it's helped me a lot, and I know it's helped thousands of other people a lot, and you won't know until you try. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you very soon.